A man opened a new restaurant but couldn't decide on a name. He decided he'd name it after the third person who walked in. The third customer came in and he asked her name. She said, Jill. He replied, Well, Jill, you have great legs, and decided to name the place Jill's Legs. A week later, a man was sitting outside on the sidewalk. A police officer asked, What are you doing? He said, Waiting for Jill's legs to open so I can get something to eat. Jack, Eddie, and Carl, three writers attending a convention, booked a three-bedroom suite on the 75th floor of a hotel. When they returned, the receptionist said, Sorry, all elevators are broken. You'll have to take the stairs. To make the climb less boring, they divided the floors. Jack, funny stories, would entertain from floors 1 to 25. Eddie, scary stories, from floors 26 to 50. Carl, sad stories, from floors 51 to 75. Jack's jokes had Eddie and Carl laughing hysterically by floor 25. Eddie's scary tales had Jack and Carl hugging each other by floor 50. Then Carl began his sad stories. Here's my saddest one, he said nervously. There once was a man named Carl who left the hotel room key in the car. A woman went to a psychiatrist because she was having serious problems with her life. The psychiatrist asked her many questions, but he did not seem to be getting a clear picture of her problems. Finally, he asked, Did you ever watch your husband's face while you were having sex? Well, yes, I did once, she replied. Well, how did he look? Very angry. At this point, the psychiatrist felt that he was really getting somewhere, and he said, Well, that's very interesting. We must look into this further. Now tell me, you say that you have only seen your husband's face once during love. That seems somewhat unusual. How did it occur that you saw his face that time? He was looking through the window. An elderly woman rode into town and tied her mule outside the saloon. She was brushing the trail dust off her clothes when a cocky young cowboy swaggered out, swaying a bit from whiskey, a revolver spinning in his hand. He smirked. Hey, Granny, ever done a little dancing? She answered evenly, No, can't say I have. The cowboy grinned. Well, today's your lucky day. He started firing shots at the ground near her boots, and she hopped around to avoid getting her toes blown off. The onlookers roared with laughter. When his last shot rang out, the cowboy spun his gun back into the holster and strutted away. The woman quietly walked to her mule, reached into a saddlebag, and pulled out a double-barreled shotgun. Click, click. The sound froze the whole street. The cowboy stopped cold and turned slowly. In a steady voice, she asked, Son, you ever kissed a mule's backside? He gulped. No, ma'am, but I reckon today's my lucky day too. In a manners class, the teacher asked, Michael, if you were on a dinner date, how would you tell the lady you needed the bathroom? Michael, just a minute, I have to go pee. Teacher, rude and impolite. Sherman, your turn. Sherman, I'm sorry, but I really need to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Teacher, better, but you still shouldn't say bathroom at the dinner table. All right, Johnny, show us your best manners. Johnny, I'd say, Darling, may I be excused for a moment? I need to shake hands with a very dear friend of mine, who I hope to introduce to you after dinner. The teacher fainted. Jennifer's wedding was fast approaching, and her mom had found the perfect mother-of-the-bride dress. Then disaster struck. Jennifer learned her dad's much younger new wife had bought the exact same dress. Jennifer begged her to exchange it. The stepmom refused. Absolutely not. I look like $1 million in this dress, and I'm wearing it. When Jennifer told her mom, she just smiled. Never mind, sweetheart. I'll get another dress. It's your special day. A few days later, they found an even more beautiful gown. Over lunch, Jennifer asked, Aren't you going to return the first dress? When will you ever wear it? Her mom grinned. "Oh, I'll wear it. To the rehearsal dinner the night before the wedding."
A couple was playing golf at a super exclusive course surrounded by million-dollar homes. At the third tee, the husband warned, "Honey, be careful with your drive. Don't break any windows. Fixing them will cost a fortune." Well, she teed up and shanked the ball right through the biggest house's window. The husband groaned, "I told you. Let's go apologize and find out the damage." They knocked on the door, and a man invited them in. The place was a mess. Broken glass everywhere, a tipped-over bottle in the foyer. The man said, "Are you the ones who broke my window?" "Yes, sorry about that," the husband replied. "No, thank you," said the man. "I'm a genie trapped in that bottle for 1,000 years. You freed me, so I'll grant each of you one wish, and I get the last one." The husband said, "I want $1 million a year for life." "Done." The genie turned to the wife. "Your wish?" "A house in every country in the world." "Consider it done." Then the genie asked, "And my wish?" The husband looked at his wife and shrugged. "Well, we got money and houses. I guess it's okay." The genie took the wife upstairs and spent 2 hours with her. Afterward, he turned to her and said, "How old is your husband anyway?" 35. "And he still believes in genies? That's amazing!" One sunny morning, a man came back to the cabin after hours of fishing and decided to take a nap. His wife, enjoying the peace, thought she'd take the boat out. Not to fish, just to relax, float, and read her book in the sunshine. She dropped the anchor a short distance from shore and opened her novel. Enter the Lake Patrol officer. He pulled up beside her boat and said, "Good morning, ma'am. Can I ask what you're doing out here?" "Reading," she said, without looking up. He raised an eyebrow. "Well, this area is off limits for fishing." "I'm not fishing. I'm reading." "Yes, but you've got a fishing rod, a tackle box, and bait. You could be fishing at any moment." She looked up calmly and replied, "If that's how we're playing this, then if you don't leave, I'll have to report you for harassment." He blinked. "I haven't even touched you." She smiled. "True, but you could, at any moment." He left, quickly. A successful rancher died and left everything to his devoted wife. She was a very good-looking woman and determined to keep the ranch, but knew very little about ranching, so she decided to place an ad in the newspaper for a ranch hand. 2 cowboys applied for the job. One was gay, and the other a drunk. She thought long and hard about it, and when no one else applied, she decided to hire the gay guy, figuring it would be safer to have him around the house than the drunk. He proved to be a hard worker who put in long hours every day and knew a lot about ranching. For weeks the two of them worked, and the ranch was doing very well. Then one day the rancher's widow said to the hired hand, "You have done a really good job, and the ranch looks great. You should go into town and kick up your heels." The hired hand readily agreed and went into town one Saturday night. 1 o'clock came, however, and he didn't return. 2 o'clock and no hired hand. Finally, he returned around 2:30, and upon entering the room, he found the rancher's widow sitting by the fireplace with a glass of wine waiting for him. She quietly called him over to her. "Unbutton my blouse and take it off," she said. Trembling, he did as she directed. "Now take off my boots." He did as she asked, ever so slowly. "Now take off my socks." He removed each gently and placed them neatly by her boots. "Now take off my skirt." He slowly unbuttoned it, constantly watching her eyes in the firelight. "Now take off my bra." Again, with trembling hands, he did as he was told and dropped it to the floor. Then she looked at him and said, "If you ever wear my clothes into town again, you're fired." A Texan strolls into a small pub in Ireland and says loud enough for everyone to hear, "I've been told you Irish can hold your liquor. I'll give $500 to anyone who can down 10 pints of Guinness in a row. No breaks." The place goes silent. Nobody moves. One guy quietly slips out the door. About half an hour later, the same guy comes back, walks up to the Texan and says, "That offer still standing?" The Texan nods, so the bartender lines up 10 fresh pints. The Irishman starts, and in what feels like one long gulp, empties every glass. The pub erupts in cheers. Handing over the $500, the Texan asks, "So, why'd you leave earlier?" The Irishman grins. "Had to pop over to the pub down the road just to make sure I could actually pull it off." 4 expectant dads were pacing in a hospital waiting area when the nurse came in. She smiled at the first man. "Congratulations, you have 2 beautiful babies." The man laughed. "No way, that's wild. I work for DoubleTree Hotels." Turning to the second man, she said, "Congrats, you've just had triplets." He blinked. "That's odd. I work for a company called Triple Tech." Then she told the third man, "You're now the father of 4. He grinned. "Fitting, since I work for a place called Four Corners Cafe." The fourth man sat in the corner, looking pale and whispering to himself. They asked, "Are you okay?" He groaned. "I work for 7 Seas Cruises." A grandmother is a lady who has no children of her own, so she likes other people's little girls. A grandfather is just a man grandmother. He goes for walks with the boys and talks about fishing, tractors, and stuff like that. Grandmothers don't have to do anything except be there. They're old, so they shouldn't play too hard or run. It's enough if they drive us to the shops where the pretend horse is and have lots of 5 cents ready. They are often fat, but not too fat to tie kids' shoes. They wear funny glasses and funny underwear, and they can take their teeth and gums out. Everyone should try to have one, because grandmothers are the only grown-ups who have time. At the tee, the Englishman's wife bends over to place her ball. A gust of wind flips her skirt, revealing she's not wearing underwear. "Good heavens, woman, why no undies?" her husband exclaims. "You don't give me enough housekeeping money." He sighs, pulls out 20 pounds. "For decency's sake, go buy some." Next, the Irishman's wife does the same. Wind, skirt up, nothing underneath. "Blessed Mary, woman, why no undies?" "Can't afford any on what you give me." He hands her $10. "Go get some, for heaven's sake." Finally, the Scotsman's wife steps up. Wind blows her skirt over her head. Same story. "Sweet saints above, Aggie, where are your drawers?" "You didn't give me enough to afford any." He reaches into his pocket, hands her a comb. "Well then, tidy yourself up a bit." The Smiths couldn't have kids, so they decided to try a surrogate father to start their family. On the big day, Mr. Smith kissed his wife goodbye. "Well, I'm off now. The man should be here soon." Half an hour later, a door-to-door baby photographer rings the doorbell, hoping to make a sale. "Good morning, I've come to—" "Oh, no need to explain," Mrs. Smith interrupted, a little embarrassed. "I've been expecting you." "Really?" said the photographer. "Well, babies are my specialty." She invited him in and after a moment asked, blushing, "Where do we start?" "Leave it to me," he said. "I usually try 2 in the bathtub, 1 on the couch, maybe a couple on the bed. The living room floor is fun. Lots of space to spread out." "Bathtub and living room floor?" Mrs. Smith gasped. "No wonder it didn't work out with Harry and me." "Well, I can't guarantee a perfect shot every time. But if we try several positions and I shoot from 6 or 7 angles, I'm sure you'll be pleased." "That's a lot," she said. "In my line of work, a man has to take his time. I'd love to be in and out in 5 minutes, but I'm sure you'd be disappointed." "Don't I know it?" she whispered. He opened his briefcase and pulled out a portfolio. This one was done on top of a bus. "Oh my God!" Mrs. Smith gasped. "And these twins turned out great, even though their mother was difficult. I had to take her to the park. People were 4 and 5 deep, crowding around for 3 hours. The mother kept squealing and yelling. I barely got my shots. When squirrels started nibbling on my equipment, I had to pack up." Mrs. Smith leaned forward. They actually chewed on your equipment? Yep. But if you're ready, I'll set up my tripod and we can get started. Tripod? Yes, my cannon is too big to hold for long. Mrs. Smith fainted. I was at the pharmacy, waiting in line, when I glanced at the name tag of the man behind the counter. Something about the name tugged at my memory. It hit me. I had a huge crush on a boy with that exact name in high school, over 30 years ago. He was tall, confident, played guitar in a garage band. I used to write his name in the margins of my notebook like a secret I hoped life would one day reveal. So naturally, I took a good look at the man standing there. And I thought, nah, can't be him. This guy was bald, had reading glasses halfway down his nose, and looked like he'd lost a battle or two with gravity. Still, curiosity won. "Excuse me," I said, smiling. "Did you go to Jefferson High?" "I sure did," he replied cheerfully. "What year did you graduate?" "Class of '89, you?" I grinned. "Same class. We were classmates." He leaned in, stared at me for a second, and then asked, dead serious, "Wow. Were you one of our teachers?" I haven't emotionally recovered, but I did go home and order wrinkle cream, a new pair of jeans, and a tinted moisturizer. A store that sells new husbands has opened in Manchester, just off Deansgate, where a woman may go to choose a husband. Among the instructions at the entrance is a description of how the store operates. You may visit this store only once. There are 6 floors, and the value of the products increase as the shopper ascends the flights. The shopper may choose any item from a particular floor, or may choose to go up to the next floor, but you cannot go back down except to exit the building. So, a woman goes to the husband store to find a husband. On the first floor, the sign on the door reads, "Floor 1, these men have jobs." She is intrigued, but continues to the second floor, where the sign reads, "Floor 2, these men have jobs and love kids." That's nice, she thinks, but I want more. So she continues upward. The third floor sign reads, "Floor 3, these men have jobs, love kids, and are extremely good-looking." Wow, she thinks, but feels compelled to keep going. She goes to the 4th floor and the sign reads, "Floor 4, these men have jobs, love kids, are drop-dead good-looking, and help with housework." "Oh, mercy me," she exclaims. "I can hardly stand it." Still, she goes to the 5th floor and the sign reads, "Floor 5, these men have jobs, love kids, are drop-dead gorgeous, help with housework, and have a strong romantic streak." She is so tempted to stay, but she goes to the 6th floor, where the sign reads, "Floor 6, you are visitor 31,456,012 to this floor." There are no men on this floor. This floor exists solely as proof that women are impossible to please. Thank you for shopping at the husband store. Hank, a quiet farmer from Willow Creek, had just loaded up his best dairy cow, Daisy, into the trailer hitched to his old red Massey Ferguson tractor. He was cruising down a back road, just minding his business, when out of nowhere, a big rig came flying through a stop sign and slammed into the side of his tractor. The impact sent Hank flying into a ditch on one side of the road and poor Daisy into the other. Everything went silent, except for the sound of Daisy moaning in pain. Hank could tell she was hurting bad. A state trooper showed up a few minutes later. He walked over to Daisy first, took one look at her, shook his head, pulled out his pistol, and gently ended her suffering. Then, the officer crossed the road, gun still in hand, and looked down at Hank. "Sir," he said, "how are you feeling?" Hank blinked, looked at the gun, and replied, "Never been better." It all started innocently enough during lunch. 3 hearty servings of beans. I knew better, but hey, they were too good to resist. Later that evening, I came home to find my husband grinning from ear to ear. "Got a surprise for you tonight," he announced, eyes sparkling. Curious and excited, I let him lead me by the hand, blindfold me, and guide me to my chair at the dinner table. I was bubbling with anticipation. Just as he was about to lift the blindfold, his phone rang. "Promise me you won't peek while I'm on the call," he said, slipping out of the room. I nodded, but inside, panic was setting in. Those beans? Yeah. They were making their presence known, and fast. My stomach churned like a stormy ocean, and I fought with every ounce of willpower to keep the chaos contained. But physics? Physics doesn't care about birthdays. Seizing the moment while the coast was clear, I let loose. It was loud, so loud it could have registered on the Richter scale. And the smell? Think toxic waste dump meets skunk apocalypse. Desperately, I grabbed my napkin and flapped it like a flag, hoping to clear the air, or at least pretend I was trying. Relieved by the silence, I couldn't resist unleashing a few more, each one worse than the last. Freedom never smelled so bad. Minutes later, I heard my husband's footsteps approaching. Time was up. Trying to look innocent and composed, I sat back with a smile as he returned. "Did you peek?" he asked. "Not a chance," I said, trying not to cough. He removed the blindfold, and there they were. 12 guests, faces twisted in horror, fingers pinching noses, desperately waving their hands in front of their faces. In perfect, strained unison, they forced out a shaky, "Happy birthday!" I swear, if I had vanished right then, nobody would have blamed me.